Okay, we are recording. Only real. Hello.
Hello there. Hi, Stu.
You good?
Yeah, I'm very good, thank you. Yeah. How are you?
I'm all right, thank you. I'm all right. Where are you today?
I am at my flat in Southeast London, uh,
Glorious.
which I also kind of work out of at the moment. I'm in the process actually of getting a new studio spot, but at the moment I just work out of my living room, which works quite well for me.
Lovely. Lovely. Well, let's waste no time. Let's get on with today's playlist. And I'm going to ask you to kick things off by telling me the track that you think has the greatest ever intro, please.
Okay, yeah, difficult question this one. I think I've gone for G's and Hustlers by Snoop Dogg. From Doggy Style. And I guess, yeah, it's an interesting question because it made me think about what it is about intros that I like. And what I landed on was it's kind of dependent on what's coming after the intro too. That sort of is what defines and gives the power to the intro for me to make a good intro. So because when the beat kicks in, it's like, in my opinion, such a good beat and such a kind of confident beat. It kind of, once you hear it retroactively and you look back on the intro, it's like, because it's quite a long intro
Yeah,
and
there's
it's
a
sort of
lot of
like,
dialogue at the beginning, isn't there, before it drops?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's kind of like an old school skit, like a hip
Mm.
hop skit. But it's actually part of the track. And I think, yeah, like the fact that the beat is so good, it kind of gives weight to the intro and it kind of justifies it being so long. And it's yeah, it's like it's so on the nose, it's like almost a bit kind of twee,
Yeah.
uh, especially with hindsight
Mm.
now. But I think it pulls it off. I think it's like playful on the right side of the line.
Tell me a little bit about your approach to writing the new stuff you've been doing in a world where everything seems rapid and attention spans seem shorter. Um, do you sort of get pulled into playing the game a little bit of like, right, I've got to hook them quick because, I'm in there with thousands of other new songs that are dropping on Spotify daily. Have I got to hook them quick or do you play that game essentially? Is what I'm asking.
I think like asking me that now at the moment is a different thing to it may have been in the past when I was making music before. Like my decision to bring back Only Real was completely on my own terms. Like uh I really didn't kind of think about how it was going to be received or it even kind of becoming something that was more than just like doing it for my own creative satisfaction. So at the moment, it's not been something that I've thought about at all. Although ironically, the track I've already put out, Good Morning, is really short and it is like the length of TikTok basically. Um, but that wasn't at all in my head when I was making it. Um, I think like I'm kind of in two minds. I do think that there is like I think we all as music fans, the natural instinct is to kind of be like super defensive and dismissive of thinking about those kind of things.
Yeah.
And I do think that there is a place for them, and it can, and in some ways, it is kind of just tying into like pop culture of the moment. And uh, as long as you're not sacrificing your art, it can be quite a fun thing to play with. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's something that I think about as I move forward, but definitely not like a deciding factor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty much the best answer. I think like,
Good.
I think you've got it bang on there, mate. Um, now tell me the song, the first song that you remember hearing that had an emotional impact on you, please.
So this is, yeah, I've got a good story for this one actually. Um, it's a memory. So uh, I grew up in London and I was born in 1991. And I remember being a kid that when I was a kid, there like Capital Radio had a cafe in central London that was kind of, they would they would broadcast out of, I think the actual broadcast office was maybe above, but they also had a kind of novelty radio station in the middle of the restaurant. And I remember going there with my family as a kid, and we entered this raffle, and I won it. And the prize was to get to choose a song live on air. So I chose Verve Bittersweet Symphony, which is like a super, it like plays on the heartstrings anyway, that song. Um, but I chose it, and then like within like 20 seconds, I was just like in floods of tears. It was just like, because I suppose to preface this as well, like I found it really hard to listen to music when I was a kid. Like I kind of found it like emotionally overwhelming. So I struggled to listen to music until I was like kind of 12 or so. Um, I'd listen to like music. I'd listen to like, like music in bowling alleys, that kind of like upbeat 90s stuff. But generally speaking, I didn't. And I was kind of a bit scared of it. And so I chose that song and I burst into tears and I felt really embarrassed that I was crying. So I blamed it on, I said to my mum that I didn't like my pudding that I'd had, which I don't think she bought.
I mean, so I want to go back to that. You said you was born in 91,
Yeah.
and I think Verve dropped Bittersweet Symphony maybe 97, maybe 96. Um, that's heavy old music for a young lad to be choosing in a world of, I'm sure novelty records everywhere at that point, and you lean into something like the Verve.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose just yeah, when you get to the question about what my first CD was bought, it kind of shows that I'm not just sort of like trying to be cool. I definitely was
Yeah,
a sucker for the novelty records too. But yeah, you're right. It's like quite funny, I guess, to think of like a 6 or 7 year old like in his feelings
yeah.
uh, listening to the Verve. But yeah, I guess I've always loved that song. It's just those strings are just amazing, aren't they? And it's super catchy and melodic as well in its own way. So yeah, I don't know. I guess I'd heard it on the radio in the car or something with my parents. That would have been how I would have consumed music at that point.
So you said, I mean, you said that you hear that in the car with the folks. Like, was there? I mean, you said that you struggled to listen to music as a young lad. Like, was there not music on at home? Was it not a particularly musical environment?
Um, I'd say mediumly so. Like I think my mum and dad liked the stuff that you'd probably guess that they would like. Like my mum loved the Beach Boys and the Beatles. My dad loved Van Morrison and Neil Young. And that stuff definitely was on in the house and it was stuff that I liked. But I would never, I until yeah, in my yeah, and like I never sort of I was just very wary of music. It would just often bring me, I think I was just quite a sensitive kid and it just yeah, it was just a bit too much. But yeah, so in answer to your question, there was a little bit. I was encouraged to play instruments and learn music. And my dad's Irish and there's a lot of kind of Irish folk music in our family. So that was a bit different. That kind of almost didn't feel like music in the same way. Um,
What do you mean? Explain that a little.
well, I guess it was playing it and seeing it live and being around it and generally it was instrumental
Yeah,
rather, with lyrics. Maybe it was the lyrics aspect that
sure.
I found tough, but yeah.
Okay, I'm going to stay in the formative years, and for track three now, I'm going to ask you to tell me the song that reminds you of your time at school, please.
Yeah, this was a really interesting one as well because it kind of it made me realize and sort of order my musical taste through those years. Like I'd always, without having really considered it, I'd always just thought of those years of my life of being really into grime music. Um, and that was so the song I've chosen is the instrumental Ghetto Coyote. Um, and Kano did a version of it, and there was loads of versions flying around at that time. Um, Loads of sort of just like local West London rappers. And I always thought that I'd liked that kind of in line with indie music, like the Maccabees and Jack Pignate and all that kind of stuff. But actually, I think it was like from like 12 to 15, I was just like super into grime. And then it kind of switched. Which I guess is maybe in line with and that really was the period that grime really was just like taking off. And just, even just as a kid that wasn't involved in it at all, I feel like very lucky and happy to have been kind of at that impressionable age
Mm.
at the birth of a new genre, because that's something that, like you look back on decades gone by and you imagine what it would have been like to kind of be there in that in the beginning of a genre. And I guess I wasn't, there's different ways to experience it. I obviously wasn't like at pirate radio stations. Um, but it definitely, I do look back of kind of like, and I feel the energy of that. And I remember kind of on my early iPod having like the radio sets downloaded and kind of looking forward to them, and
Yeah.
it going around on MSN. So yeah, so that was cool. And then
Did it feel dangerous? Because, like, and and not because a lot of the narrative that is expressed in a lot of grime lyrics, but as an old man, like I caught acid house when I was 18, and it felt really dangerous. When I was 14, the Beastie Boys dropped License to Ill, and it was like, this is like my punk. This is like, did that feel like your punk?
I think so, yeah. I think so. I think it felt really exciting. I don't think it felt dangerous, but it felt really exciting. And it felt I guess I probably like after that, when I got into India and sort of like learned more about American hip hop, like 90s American hip hop,
Sure.
um, I realized that that was a style of music, and like rapping was something that I really liked. But grime was my first kind of experience of that, really. So I guess it was as someone that then went on to kind of involve that kind of like heavy lyrical aspect in their music. I think that was obviously something that really resonated with me when I was first hearing it and felt really exciting, even though I was like, completely not part of it. And I think I was that younger. If I'd been like 18 or 17 and I was kind of trying to involve myself in going to see it live or whatever, it might have felt very different. But I felt pretty safe listening to it in the comfort of my headphones on the way to school.
Well, tell me about school. Was that something that you enjoyed?
Yeah, I loved school actually. Yeah, I really loved school. I found it like an amazingly fun time. I didn't particularly love the academic side of it, but I didn't it would I didn't struggle with that in a huge way. Everyone obviously has their moments in school, but the social aspect of it I loved. Um, yeah.
Did you know? Did you have any idea what you wanted to do when you left school?
Not at all. And I think actually from listening to a few of your episodes, I think like it's only kind of even even when I like got my first record deal was only real. I think like I still wasn't equating it to like a career. I knew I wanted to do it, and there was things on my checklist, like being an NME and those sort of things. They were the things that were important to me. But the kind of financial aspect, I didn't really tie the two things together, and I was kind of just going with the flow in that aspect. And then I think it took me a period of reflection after Only Real, when I kind of felt like I was actually like an adult, to go, what do you want to do? And the kind of the place that a career takes in your life, and the part of your life that what it involves, and what you want from it, and how much you value making money and creative fulfillment and the time around your work and all those sort of things. I just like I really didn't think about any of that at all. I just knew that I loved music and I wanted to do it. And I had things on my checklist, but they weren't financial at all.
That checklist you just mentioned there, like being in the NME, like when these boxes were ticked, did you feel fulfilled?
Yeah, actually, to be honest. Um, I kind of felt, yeah, I did feel really fulfilled is maybe not the right word, but I felt really excited by them. I felt really like kind of in disbelief that these things were happening. And you know, you just go with the flow in the moment and it goes very quickly. Um,
Was
but
you
yeah,
confident in what you'd done though? You know, you must have known that what you was doing was good, but you just getting that sort of affirmation from them. Did that sort of was that the sort of cherry on the cake? I guess.
yeah, I guess like the yeah, so that's an interesting question. Like the aspect of um it wasn't affirming to me the quality of what I've done. Um, I've always been pretty headstrong with that. Um, it was more just like fun. It was just like this aspect of fun, and it was
Yeah.
kind of completely separate to what the kind of creative aspect to it. It was more like just this fun thing that I also get to do, which is to like play these shows. And I've always kind of separate, yeah, like the writing of the music is like very different and like the most important thing to me. And then they're like playing the shows, being in magazine or whatever, like they're kind of like a fun cherry on top, like you say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to ask you to tell me the first song you remember buying from a record store, please.
Yeah, so I'm a bit too young to have bought like records, I think, or maybe it just wasn't my thing. But the first, I think it was on CD or maybe tape,
Mm.
was Witch Doctor by the Cartoons. So yeah, not at all cool. Uh,
It's good though. I like these. These are my favourite ones. When I first set this up, Noel, I think uh I think my second ever guess was Russell from Block Party, and he went in with a howler straight away, and it was like if Russell from Block Party is just being honest, that's good. And I'll be honest, ever since no one's ever sort of quote some obscure John Peel like rarity that was played. It's like, come on, no one was listening to that when they were like seven. Do you know what I
yeah,
mean? So
yeah,
yeah, bring on the cartoons, mate.
I did. I think I even considered. I was like, okay, so that was probably the first one. What was the second or third? Maybe there's a corn in there, and it didn't fall for quite a long time. So yeah, but I actually listened to that song on like reflecting on this, and it kind of bangs still. It's kind of like for what it is for a novelty record for kids, you can't really go wrong. So
Yes, fuck, man.
so yeah, and I remember listening to it. I think it was on tape because I had this yellow and red Panasonic tape player, portable tape player, that was like my most cherished possession.
Yeah.
And I think I remember having it. The art, I've got this image of the artwork in my head, and it's not the one that I could see online. So maybe that's how I make it cool. Maybe I had like an alternative Japanese version
I've
of
got a
it.
level with you, mate. You ain't dressing that up. It ain't gonna happen. You just got to take that one on the chin, mate.
It's worth a go.
I mean, you talked about getting on the enemy, and you talked about playing live and stuff like that. Was you a confident young lad? You know, could you walk on stage and you know not have them kind of 16 nervous pisses just before you go on stage? Was you always comfortable in that?
I think that is something that at the time I would have said, yeah, completely find it really easy. And I think with reflection, because I had a period when Only Real finished where I really struggled. I'd really had a bit of a dark period. And I think what I realized is that I'm very good at appearing confident. and I'm quite good in social situations. So I'd kind of equated that to being confident. But actually, I kind of feel looking back, like in a lot of those settings, I did subconsciously put on a bit of a mask
Sure.
and wasn't completely present in those moments because I didn't have the like deep down confidence to just like take it for what it is and be myself. And I think that's also maybe the interesting thing about kind of being a solo artist, but under a stage name. It's kind of all wrapped into that. There's like a where does Only Real begin and where does Nile end kind of thing.
Do you think that's something that you've made more sense of as you've got older?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that period of like, uh, well, Only Real started kind of happening when I was 19.
That's
Uh,
young, man.
yeah, it's young. I mean, it's not as young as some people, but it's pretty young, and it's that formative era where especially when you go a few years later, like people are coming out of university, they're being faced with like what they want to do. And I wasn't faced with that. And I didn't really have to like make that, I didn't really have to take that long, hard look at myself because at that point it had kind of seemingly figured itself out. And I naively thought that that was me there for life kind of thing.
Yeah,
Um, then later on, I had to do that. And I think I was it was a very helpful and a tough thing to sort out, but I'm glad that I did. And now I feel like I now understand the place of Only Real in my life kind of thing.
good. Tell me the song that soundtracked your year's clubbing, please.
Yeah, this was a really fun. These memories were great to think about. Um, so I think, yeah, I also heard on a few episodes that you said that this is quite a common thing for people to say, but I didn't really hugely do a lot of clubbing. Um, I was definitely more of like a house party and gig kind of kid.
Hmm?
There was a club called Yo-Yo in Notting Hill.
Seb's Club.
What did you say? Sorry.
Seb's Club, wasn't it?
Yeah. So that in like 2008, 2009, I used to go to that as like a 18-year-old. I remember like it was, I say 18 because you had to, in the daytime before, you had to send your name and you had to take your passport and they were really on scanning it. So it definitely wasn't an underage thing. But that was a club that I went to. But I don't really remember the music that was played. I think it was quite a lot of that. I think it was like the kind of Mark Ronson hip hop era. Um, but the song that really reminds me of my equivalent of being in a nightclub and being kind of like consumed by the atmosphere and the music is Metronomy, My Heart Rate Rapid.
Yeah.
And like a few tunes on that record really I would have been happy with. Um it's I and there's two times that I'm thinking of. I saw them at Ulu, which was the University of London Union or something, which was like I think at the time was like a big venue for gigs. And then also there was a festival called Offset. Um, and that was, I think it only happened 2 years in a row.
It happened quite a lot in Essex because the people that set it up come from Essex and they used to come to my club. And
It was
it
in
was
Epping.
pardon?
It was in Epping. In yeah,
Yeah.
Epping. Yeah,
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 yeah, yeah. And yeah, like go on, carry on. So yeah, offset, like yeah,
yeah. That's Offset Festival. I went twice with my friends, and I think they're like probably like my favorite memories of being a kid. I was like 16, 17. Um, Amazing festival. Like I thought it was so good. Had such good bands. And Metronomy played, pretty sure Metronomy played 1 year.
they did. They did.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it was put together by Kieran and his mum, funnily enough. But I think Kieran done a lot of the artwork for the horrors as well, I think, at the time.
Uh,
So there are lots of the sort of Essex South End bands like the Horrors, These New Puritans, ipso facto, Neil's Children. They'd all be playing Offset like every year. Yeah, it was a cool little festival, that man.
yeah, really cool. Yeah, this was like pre Only Real, and I was just like a kid going. I had no kind of knowledge of behind the scenes or what was going on. Um, but I just remember at both those gigs, just really like being completely absorbed in the music. And I think I was thinking as well, like when I was doing Only Real before, and I would get asked, what are you, in an interview or something, you get asked what are your influences. I just kind of used to just aren't, I used to just say the music that I liked when I was younger. And actually, I haven't listened to that first Metronome album in years.
Mm,
And listening to it now, I was like, I loved it at such a formative age. And now I'm like, oh, that inspired me or influenced me hugely.
yeah,
Kind of combination of falsetto vocals and like indie guitars, synths, electronic drums. Yeah, I can really see how that actually did influence me.
yeah.
Um,
It's a great record.
such a good record. And there is a video, well, there was at some point, there's a video I got on stage at Ulu. I remember as I was like 16 and there's a like very grainy YouTube video of me on stage at that gig that was like my claim to fame for a bit when I was 16.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Well, from clubs, we're going to go home, and I'm going to ask you to tell me a favourite song from an artist from your home county, please, Mel.
Yeah, so I took this to mean West London. Um, and so I've gone for quite an unoriginal answer of The Clash, Wrong and Boyo. Yeah, just absolutely love The Clash. I would have been happy with any song off London Calling. Did I choose Wrong and Boyo or did I choose What the Casbah, which isn't on that album?
You
Can't
went for
remember.
Casbah.
Oh, did I? Okay. Um,
You can have what you want. It's fine, mate.
well, yeah, as that, I guess that shows, yeah, I just love The Clash. And I think like hearing his vocal style and the kind of slightly non-traditional singing, which was, carried by emotion and charm and was just like really eye-opening for me when I was first, because I can't really sing in a traditional sense. And I had to find a way to express the lyrics that I'd written. And yeah, just like the attitude. I mean, no one needs me to explain why the Clash are amazing. Yeah.
How old was you when the Clash kind of clicked and made sense?
I remember being on a holiday with my family in Spain when I was about 14, 13, maybe 13. And I remember listening to London Calling. I guess maybe my brother had the CD and I got my hands on it. And as you did at that point, just because I only had that CD, I just listened to it back and forth the whole way through. And so it's that thing of like, yeah, the track listing. When you hear the end of one song, you're expecting the next one to come in. Um, so
That's
yeah,
something that I hope people never lose, because in a world where it feels with lots of artists now yeah, and sort of current pop artists, it's not about putting together an album. It's about, releasing tracks. And I worry that people don't ever get that thing that when you hear the end of a record, you, even though if it's on a mixtape, it ain't next, but you think, oh no, what's next? Because it's
yeah,
that format that you've just, where you've devoured that album over and over and over. It's just ingrained. I love that feeling. I think it's
it's
beautiful.
yeah, it is such a subtle, beautiful thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that has, yeah, I guess that is something that's been maybe lost a bit.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. And I mean, we're talking about London Calling, such iconic artwork as well, and that's something that is the other thing. Without sounding like a 50-year-old man, but I do think there's so many beautiful things that you can come from streaming, and having access to everything like that is great. But if I'm listening to music on that telephone now, I'm not getting to hold up that record like I did when I was a kid and just did absolutely get lost in the artwork. And
Yeah,
it's the artwork that I think if you see any of these kind of books or whatever about the greatest album covers of the last 100 years, none of them are from the last 15 years. Like
yeah,
it's always like sort of, I don't know, maybe early 2000s and back from there because I think artwork gets lost when it's a tiny little square on your phone. Do you know
yeah,
what I'm saying?
yeah, 100%. Yeah, completely. Because there's something about having that physical kind
And
of having it in
yeah,
physical form. And yeah, like even going back to that, me talking about the cartoons Witch Doctor track, the artwork version, the artwork that I had left such an impression on me.
there you go. Yeah.
And you wouldn't have that now, I guess. You wouldn't, yeah, you just wouldn't consume it. Um, I kind of made a decision when I decided to bring back Only Real to do all my own artwork. Because I did that at the beginning the first time round, and then through just kind of uh, through it becoming a bigger thing and signing a record deal and stuff, I kind of lost that ownership. Um, and this time I'm gonna keep to that because I think it's so important. And even if it is just digitally, kind of try and really make that my own. And it's something that I really enjoy and I love doing. So I think it kind of makes sense to do
So,
that.
so what sort of prompted you to start making music again?
Well, it was really really interesting. I'd say it would be like very interesting to like analyze it from like a psychoanalysis way because honestly, like in like April of this year or March or April of this year, I was still adamant that I would never do Only Real again. It was something that I'd done, a great thing to tell my grandkids. And I was doing composing for like TV and film and stuff like that. So I was still making music. But then I guess I just started making a few things that I really liked and actually linked to my last song. I went through a big breakup a few years ago, and I think just the emotion of that really prompted me to kind of be writing things that I felt needed to kind of have a project around them. And then I thought about doing it as like a new project because I was still kind of struggling with, still really didn't like the idea of having like a my like having like a public aspect to it and having me attached to it. And then I just decided to just do it as Only Real because it was just making more sense. And then since I've done that, all those kind of fears or anxieties or issues that I had with being like my face being attached to it and me being attached to it have just completely disappeared. And it's
Right.
just like, and I didn't realize how much I missed it. Like I didn't realize how much I missed waking up and being like, let's go, let's crack on with Only Real.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Absolutely wonderful. Right, it's your last track. And I'm going to ask you to tell the listeners a song that you think many of them may not know that you would like them to hear, please.
So for this one, I have chosen Harumi, Fire by the River. Uh, if I this is a classic song that if I'd chosen this as the first tape I'd ever bought, you would have been like lies. Like a niche 70s Japanese psych pop
Hmm,
song and album. The album is called Harumi
hmm,
and the artist is called Harumi. And the track is called Fire by the River. And yeah, so with that, I went through this big breakup and was just in a really sad place, just trying to kind of find sense of my life and get myself back together. And this song just kind of like appeared in my life. And I can't quite explain why, but I just found it really consoling. And it's not like it's a breakup song or anything like that. I don't even really know what it's about, but it's just super catchy, and it's just like from the off, it's just like it's got so much character to it, so characterful. Um, and it's quite weird. Uh, and I just loved it. And then I wouldn't stop talking about it to all my friends. And then they bought me the vinyl, which was pretty hard to get their hands on for my birthday. So that was also just like a really lovely thing. And kind of now I cherish that. And it has the meaning of that kind of, coming from where it did. Um, Also super cool artwork, actually. Um, but yeah, it's just like a really good 70s psyche little pop song. And he's a really interesting guy that just like uh was all set to be huge, and to be like the Japanese Dylan. And then he just put out this record, and then just disappeared, and like no one really knows what happened to him. But yeah, I just love that song really. The rest of the album is good, and it's got a lot of moments and a lot of kind of little production things that are really cool. Um, Song wise, I don't think it quite stands up to make it like a classic classic. But this song I think is brilliant.
We'll make it nice and easy now for people to go and check that out. 'Cause we put together a little Spotify playlist to accompany the pod. I know that the grime tracks that you mentioned, they're not on Spotify, but you did let me know that they are available on YouTube. So we'll pop the links in the show notes so people can go and check them out as well. And obviously we'll be putting your music on there as well. So the single's dropped. So what else can people expect moving forwards?
So I got another song coming out uh on the 29th of October.
Okay.
And then I've got an EP coming out in February. So yeah, just kind of getting that all tied up and ready to go. And then just take it from there, really. I think, I would like to. I kind of got half a mind on doing an album, and I've got a sort of bunch of material that I'm working on. But yeah, just kind of going with the flow with it, really, and doing a load of composing and writing with other people and stuff. So yeah, just taking it as it comes, really, and easing my way back in.
Fantastic. If people want to keep up to speed with all the news and everything else that you're doing, where's the best place to follow you, mate?
That would be on my Instagram, which is Gavers Clips. Is the Yeah, that would be where. That's kind of all I've got at the moment, I think.
Well, if it's all right with you, we'll take you in all the artwork when this drops. So if people aren't following you already, we'll make it nice and easy for them to go and do that. No, it's been lovely having a chat. I hope you've enjoyed yourself and you chose some Ace records and the cartoons. And it's been lovely, mate. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's been really nice taking a trip down memory lane.
Wonderful. I'm going to press stop, but don't go anywhere.